Hello friends, welcome to the world of Chhuti Presents, escape into audio stories in English. Today we'll read the stories from the book named Boyhood Days, written by Rabindranath Tagore. This is one of the translations from Rabindranath Tagore's renowned autobiography, Chelebela. And this translation was done by Ms. Radha Chakravarty. In the introduction of the book, Nobel laureate Mr. Amartya Sen mentioned, "This is an odd book. Boyhood Days is Rabindranath's own account of his early childhood, written by him at a ripe old age, shortly before his death. His recollections are invariably sharp and yet, as Radha Chakravarty points out in her translator's note, not in all cases in line with those factual matters on which other evidences exists. And yet, who better than Rabindranath himself to give us a glimpse of his life as a child? In fact, much the most interesting parts of his autobiography relate to his young mind. What the child Rabindranath thought, what ideas aroused the young boy, what he made of the world around him, his family, his city, his country, his globe, and what the school-age Rabindranath found sad in that world and in need of change. Many of those diagnoses would stay with him through his entire life. On these matters, there are no competing sources of real knowledge, and indeed, the picture that we get from Tagore's recollections is both gripping in itself and deeply insightful in giving us an understanding of the adult man that would emerge from those boyhood days. In the translator's notes section, translator Ms. Radha Chakravarty mentioned Boyhood Days, or Chelebela, as it was called in Bengali, is a sequence of reminiscences spanning the period from Rabindranath Tagore's earliest memories to the time of his first visit to England in 1878. The present translation is an attempt to approach the text of Chelebela in its entirety. Tagore's preface as well as the poem The Boy have been included. While choosing an idiom suitable for younger readers of today, I have also tried to preserve the flavor of the particular ethos that the original text seeks to capture. Many Bengali terms have been retained where the context does not make their meaning clear. Supplementary information has been provided in the last section of this book. Translator of this book, Ms. Radha Chakravarty, teaches literature at Gargi College, University of Delhi. Her translations include Crossings, Stories from Bangladesh and India, Chokher Bali, Farewell Song, Shesher Kobita, In the Name of the Mother, 4 stories by Mahashweta Devi, and Kapal Kundala. She has also compiled and edited Body Maps, stories by South Asian women writers. Boyhood Days by Rabindranath Tagore, translated by Radha Chakravarty. Chapter 2. The palki belongs to my grandmother's era. Its proportions are large and generous, cast in the royal mold. Each pole is designed for the shoulders of 8 bearers. Gold bangles on their wrists, thick gold hoops on their ears, clad in red short-sleeved quilted jackets called mirjais, those bearers, with all the wealth and luxury of the bygone days, have faded away like the many-hued clouds of sunset. This palki was embellished with colorful designs, some of which have worn away. It is strained in places, the queer stuffing spilling out of the upholstery. Like a discarded item struck off from today's inventory, it lies abandoned in a corner of the veranda outside the Khatanchi Khana, the leisure room. I was then about 7 or 8. I had no useful role to play in this world, and that old palki too had been dismissed from all forms of useful employment. That was why I felt such a deep affinity with it, as if it was an island in the sea, and on holidays I was Robinson Crusoe, lost to the world, concealed behind the palki's closed doors to elude the oppressive surveillance that surrounded me. Those days, our house was full of people. The degrees of familiarity were not clearly demarcated. All around was hustle and bustle of male and female attendants deployed in different quarters of the household. Perry the maid, crossing the front yard, on her heap a dhama or large rattan basket laden with vegetables. Dukhan, the bearer, fetching water from the Ganga in pitchers suspended from the bark balanced on his shoulder. The weaver woman, making for the inner quarters of the house to peddle saris designed with the latest borders. Dinu, the salaried goldsmith who served our family, pumping the hissing bellows in the room beside the alley, heading for the leisure room to claim his payment from Kailash Mukherjee, the man with the quill pen tucked behind his ear. In the courtyard, the dhunuri, fluffing the cotton stuffing of old quilts to the clanging sound of his bow-shaped cotton gin. And outside, the doorman Mukundalal, rolling about on the ground, practicing wrestling grips with the blind Pahalwan, noisily slapping his thighs before performing 20 or 25 push-ups in quick succession, and a crowd of beggars waiting, hoping for their regular portion of charity. As time advanced, the sunlight grew harsh. The bell in the portico announced the time. But inside the palki, the day refused to keep track of the passing hours. In there, it was the noon time of those bygone days, when the danka, the large kettle drum at the palace gate, would signal the end of the public audience, and the king would depart for his daily bath in sandalwood scented water. One afternoon, on a holiday, my supervisors had dozed off after their daytime meal. I was alone. The immobile palki sped through the terrain of my mind, borne by loyal minions made of air. The path they traversed had been carved out from my own whims and fancies. On that route the palki travelled to faraway lands bearing names gleaned from books. Sometimes the journey would take the palki into deep forests where tiger eyes gleamed and the flesh crept in fear. With me was Hunter Bishwanath. Bang went his gun, and it was all over. All was still. Then at some other point, the palki transformed into a Mayurpankhi, a magical boat shaped like a peacock. It floated on the ocean, No sign of land anywhere. In regular rhyme, the oar hit the water. Splash, splash, splash. Up and down. Swaying and heaving. The waves rose and fell. Watch out! Watch out! Storm ahoy! Cried the sailors. At the helm was oarsman Abdul, with his pointed beard, shaven upper lip, and bald pet. I knew him. From the river Padma, he fetched tortoise eggs and hilsa fish for Dada, my elder brother. He told me a story. One day, late in the month of Chaitra, he was out fishing in his dinghy when there was a sudden summer thunderstorm, a Kalboishakhi. It was a terrible storm. The boat was about to sink. Gripping the tow rope with his teeth, Abdul dived into the water and swam to the sandbank, tugging the boat ashore. I did not like a story that ended so quickly. The boat didn't even sink, and he survived so easily. This was no story at all. What happened next? I kept prodding him. What a to-do was there then, he replied. I found myself face to face with a wolf. What enormous whiskers he had. During the storm, he had climbed onto the pakud tree on the other shore near the market. A gust of wind and the tree fell into the Padma. Our friend, the wolf, was adrift in the rushing torrent. Gasping for air, he reached the sandbank and clambered ashore. As soon as I saw him, I wound my rope into a noose. The creature confronted me with the glare of his huge bulging eyes. All that swimming had whetted his appetite. The sight of me made his bright red tongue begin to water. He knew many folks inside out, but he didn't know Abdul. Come, my little one, I called out. The moment he reared up on his hind legs, I flung the noose round his neck. The harder he struggled to free himself, the tighter the noose became, making his tongue hang out. Did he die then, Abdul? I inquired anxiously at this point. No power on earth could allow him to die, Abdul assured me. With the river in flood, I had to get back to Bahadurganj, didn't I? Tying him to the dinghy, I got the wolf cub to tow the boat a distance of at least 20 crores, about 10 miles. He moaned and groaned. I prodded his belly with the oar, and in an hour and a half, he had covered the distance of a 10 to 15 hours journey. Don't ask what happened next, Baba, for you will not get a reply. Very well, I agreed. So much for the wolf. Now tell me about the crocodile. I have often seen the tip of his nose jutting out above the water, replied Abdul. Stretched out on the sloping river shore, basking in the sun, he seems to have a hideous smile on his face. With a gun, I could take him on, but my license had expired. A funny thing happened though. One day, Kachi Bediri, the snake catcher, was scraping split bamboo with the carved blade of her da, her baby goat tethered by her side. Sneaking up from the river, the crocodile grabbed the baby goat by the leg and began to drag it away towards the water. In a single leap, the Bedini was astride the crocodile's back. Using her da, he struck blow upon blow on that giant reptile's neck. Relinquishing the baby goat, the creature sank into the water. And then I cried in agitation. Reports of what happened next have sunk to the bottom of the river, replied Abdul. I will take a long time to retrieve that information. I shall send a scout to find out what happened and bring you the details when we meet again. But he hasn't come back since. Perhaps he has gone to find out what happened. So much for my travels within the palki. Outside the palki, I sometimes played the schoolmaster with the veranda railing for pupils. They were silent with awe. There would be the occasional naughty ones, not interested in lessons at all. They would grow up to be coolies. I would warn them. Bitten black and blue, they would still show no sign of giving up their pranks. It wouldn't do to let the mischief end. After all, for that would put an end to my game. There was one more game I played with Shingi Mama, my wooden lion. Tales of animal sacrifices performed on prayer days had convinced me that sacrificing my lion would be an event of great magnitude. Many were the blows I rained upon his neck with a twig. I had to make up the mantra, of course, for no puja is complete without that. Shingi Mama, off with your head. At Andy Bosch's shrine, I strike you dead. Alkat, dalkat, dum dum dum. Walnut, walnut, whack whack whack, crack crack crack. Almost all the words were borrowed. Only walnut was my own. I had a weakness for walnuts. From the word whack, it will be apparent that my scimitar was made of wood, and crack suggests that the scimitar was none too strong. Hello friends, with this we are ending chapter 2 of Boyhood Days by Rabindranath Tagore. For next chapters and more stories, please stay tuned to Chhuti Presents, Escape into Audio Stories in English. Thank you.